What's going on, everybody? My name is Curci, and The Walking Dead: A New Frontier. Before I started playing this game, I actually went back and replayed through Season 1 and Season 2 of The Walking Dead, mainly because I wanted to make sure that the choices that I made were going to carry over into Season 3, but I also wanted a little bit of a refresher as to what went down previously. But after playing through all 3 seasons back to back to back, I came to realize that this is a story that is very heavily featuring Clementine. Granted, you might not play as Clementine the entire time, but the point being is that you are seeing the progression of this character, and it's awesome. Because in Season 1, you play as Lee Everett. He is a guy who finds Clementine, who is a scared 8-year-old little kid, and you want to shelter her and protect her because she's scared, and you sort of establish this father-daughter relationship with her, and that carries through. Even though you might not play as Lee all the way through, that relationship that you as the player has with the character of Clementine never goes away. In Season 1, she's a very scared little girl, and then halfway through Season 1, when you start to train her into how to use a gun and how to be more capable, she becomes that. She becomes more capable. She becomes braver. She's more willing to be a part of things. And then in Season 2, Clementine is a little bit older. She's a lot more mature. She's not a kid. Like, I wouldn't sit there and say, like, yes, Clementine is a child. I mean, she is still young. She's not an adult. One of my big criticisms to Season 2 was that Clementine was getting put into situations that I feel like an 11-year-old person should not be put in. However you play through Season 2, you get a Clementine at the start of it that is very capable, and the person that you get at the very end of that game might not be what you expected. I fully support the choices that I made. I did not expect her to end up where she is. And then it transitions even further into Season 3. Clementine is very much a character in this story. She is a secondary character, however. You do play as her, but more as in flashbacks that kind of fill in the gaps between Season 3 and Season 2. You start to fill in what happened to Clementine after the events of Season 2 and how did she get to where she currently is. And in those flashbacks, you get to play as Clementine, but those are very brief segments. For the rest of the game, you play as a character known as Javier Garcia, who is taking care of his family. And for all intents and purposes, this is his game. Clementine, again, is a secondary character. She is very heavily utilized. Like, I'm not upset with the screen time that she got, but I feel like they might have made a mistake having Clementine be the playable character in Season 2, but I feel like for Season 3, she absolutely should have been the star of the game. Being a now 13-year-old girl, I'm starting to see her a lot more as an adult. Because I thought it was going to go 2 and 2. Like, I knew that Javi was going to be a character, and I knew that you were going to play as Clementine at some point, but I thought it was going to be like very 50-50, very Tales of the Borderlands. Turns out, nah, you play as Javi for most of the game, and you play Clementine like maybe a total of 15 minutes. And that's across all 5 of the episodes. So a little disappointing, but not to say that I am upset with the story arc that Clementine goes through, but that's not to say that everybody's going to have that experience. So who is Javier Garcia? Well, Javi is a disgraced baseball player that is not exactly the greatest family man. He loves his family, but he's not always there when he should be, and because of that, it causes a lot of conflict between him and his older brother, David. So when the zombie apocalypse happens, Javi is forced to step up, and they get separated from their family. David is off doing something else, and then you have to take care of your brother's wife and his 2 kids. The entirety of Season 3 is really about Javi's family and his relationship with them. Every episode starts with a flashback into Javi's past, whether it is right before the apocalypse or very early into it, where he's interacting with different family members. Family is such a integral theme to Season 3, not only with Javi, but with Clementine as well. I don't know if it's because of the family element, where the game was like, this is your family, you need to protect them, that forced me to immediately have a connection with them, because I really liked Kate. I really liked Gabe, even though Gabe is a little bit of a moody teen, which I thought was going to annoy me a lot more than it actually did. And then, of course, you have Mariana, who is your brother's daughter. And so when things start to go down, you really put your family's safety at the forefront of everything. Because of Javi's past, there are a little bit of conflict because he wasn't always there for his family, and some of that does kind of rear its ugly head every once in a while. But being a person who has been with his family for the years of the zombie apocalypse, he has stepped up and he has become better. But there are dangerous situations that happen. There are a lot of really asshole people out in the world. Speaking of which, let's talk about the title of the game, which is A New Frontier. A New Frontier isn't necessarily, like, I know how they're wording it. They're wording it as like, this is a new adventure, but really, there's a band of assholes known as the New Frontier, and they cause a lot of the problems that Javi and his family get into. So that kind of really adds to the whole emotional intenseness of the game, because there is an antagonist. This game does a good job of illustrating the fact that zombies are an ever-present danger, but in reality, the real danger is other humans. I don't know if I've ever said this in a video before, but but one thing that one of my buddies told me years ago that I've always kind of held with me, when it comes to zombie apocalypse stories, you have to look at it as being stranded out in the ocean. Zombies are the water. They are the ever-present danger. However, humanity is considered to be the shark. Once the zombie apocalypse happens, morality and ethics go right out the window, and people do whatever it is that they need to do for survival. It's not so much black and white as much as it is shades of gray. Overall, it was a really good story. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the connection that I had with Javi's family and, of course, with Clementine. Although, granted, I realized that my character of Javi should have no connection with Clementine. Having played through Season 1 and Season 2, as a player, I naturally have a connection with Clementine the minute she shows up. So whenever she says something, I kind of want to side with her, even though I'm sitting here thinking I probably shouldn't side with her, because I don't know if Javi would. So I feel like that was a little bit of a disconnect, and another reason why I feel like I should be playing as Clementine, or at least somebody who is very close to Clementine. Let me play as a character that would realistically have a connection to her and have her best interests in mind. That way, me as the player, it makes a lot more sense. Because in my playthrough, Clementine is a little bit colder. The events in Season 2 really kind of changed her and put her in a dark place. And so a lot of the things that she was asking for us to do weren't exactly the greatest choices when it comes to the good or evil choice. Again, choices for the most part are very shades of gray, which is why I more likely than not ended up siding with her. Outside of Javi's family and Clementine, there weren't a ton of characters that I really connected with. There were a few, but not really. Oh, except for freaking Garrus. Yeah, Garrus Vicarian from the Mass Effect games. He is totally in this game. Well, not really. It's his voice actor. The minute he said something, I was like, Garrus?
That thing's not a toy. Drop it, or you might hurt yourself. I'm in the middle of some calibrations.
Immediately, I was like, it's Garrus. It's him. Sure enough, I looked it up, and it is him. That character could have been the biggest piece of shit in the entire game. The fact that it was the same voice actor who voices Garrus, I was immediately this dude's best friend. I knew the character's name, and I just refused to refer to him as that. Why don't we have Garrus do this, or Garrus do that, or I support you, Garrus, and oh, I'm glad you're here, Garrus. That's a stupid thing for me, just because I love the character of Garrus. I got a lot more hype than I think I should have. I also really liked that the game actually really takes choices to heart. There are times where you will choose the fate of a certain character, and then that character probably won't die. That character can die in that moment, but if you choose to save this person, they might survive until the end of the game. This isn't like episode 5 choices, because of course there's always going to be that choice of, okay, if I do this, this character will survive until the next season, and then they're going to kill them off immediately in the next season so that they can get around that. Like, no, sure enough, this is a character that you can kill off in, I think, like episode 2 or episode 3, and if you choose to save this person, they will stick around to the end of the game. And at that point, I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what, Telltale, good on you. You actually made improvements from previous games. Not only that, I feel like from a technical standpoint, this game, it still has its challenges, but it's not as bad as it has been. It's not like the frame rate took a nosedive like Batman or Tales from the Borderlands did. This one very clearly was done with a different engine. Even the character models looked a little bit better. It was their eyes that did it for me. As soon as the game started up, I'm like, the eyes look really good, actually. It's still that cel-shaded, cartoony look, but it does look a little bit better. Again, it still has some technical problems. There is an episode where my character has like this graphical glitch sticking out of him, and for pretty much every scene until I shut down the game and rebooted it, he had this thing just sticking out of his back. And it was jarring because every time I saw it, my eyes went directly to it, and I was like, that's a bummer. And after I rebooted, it went away, and I never saw it again. So, you know what? It's a Telltale game. I'm okay with that. At least the frame rate is pretty good. Telltale did a lot of improvements here, both technical and choice-making wise. It didn't give you the illusion of choice all the time. Some choices it actually held up. At the end of it, I really enjoyed it. I was a little disappointed that I didn't get as much Clementine as I liked. I thought that the idea of me playing as a character that didn't have a personal connection to Clementine, while I, the player, did, I thought that was a little bit of a disconnect. From a writing standpoint, I think that that particularly was a lapse in judgment, but it still kind of paid out because, again, I like the story of Javi, the story of his family, and the connection that you have with Javi and his family. But overall, the story that Season 3 told is very good. If I were to rank the 3 Walking Dead games from Telltale, I would go Season 1 is still the best one, Season 3 is the second best, and then Season 2 is yeah. Mainly because I just feel like there were a lot of things that disconnected me from the story of Season 2. Like, Clementine should not have been in situations that she was in, and also, it really didn't even try to hide the fact that the choices that I made really didn't matter. I could save a character here, but he was inevitably going to die anyway. So do I think Season 3 is worth playing? Yeah, I do, because I think that it does make improvements from the Telltale formula. It's still Telltale in all of its telltale-ness, from the graphics to the technical problems and the choices being held up. And it also, again, tells a good story. But I don't think Telltale ever had a problem with storytelling. They always told good stories. So if you played through season 1 of The Walking Dead and you really enjoyed it, I would say play through season 2, just get through it, and then get to season 3. Season 3 is good. Not the greatest thing that Telltale has done, but still very good. And it also has Garrus. Let's not forget Garrus. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.